We already saw what would happen if Layla and Gabriel were to end up together, but what if Layla chose her second love interest instead, Diego? In this episode, we'll see. Firstly, I wanna take the time to say that we're working as hard as we can on Mystery Lies and we're currently making great progress. As well, we have some very important milestones happening in the studio, so we're also working on that. So expect a wave of content, and I'm sorry that we're taking a bit of time, but trust us, it's worth it. With that out of the way, let's see what would happen if Layla ended up with Diego. Originally, Diego and Gabriel were supposed to compete with each other for Layla's attention and affection. However, you can see that we stuck to this idea only in the first few episodes of season 1 of In Your Arms. Then, Diego and Layla kind of shifted apart. What would have happened if they didn't shift apart? However, well, this means that Diego would also have to ask Layla out on a date. We see Diego expresses his interest multiple times during season 1 towards Layla. However, he never actually does something besides that one surprise he does in episode 6, and episode 6 was supposed to be structured that way. It contains every single one of Layla's love interests, including Luna, which I know you guys love, doing something romantic for Layla just so that her love life becomes completely messed up and it becomes very complicated. Let's imagine that Diego asks Layla out on a date, and of course she agrees. We know she can't turn down dates. It's kind of not a strength of hers. Would their date go well? In my opinion, as one of the people along with Fresherr who wrote the series and those two characters, I think their date would go well. Diego is a very calm, controlled person with a good sense of humor, and he's also very good looking, which we know that it is a quality that Layla aims for. Combining his good looks with his calm personality, I would say that they would get along with Layla pretty well. Now, let's imagine that they become boyfriend and girlfriend. What would happen between Gabriel and Diego? They're best friends, who are competing for the same girl's attention, and then whoops, suddenly one of the two gets the girl. What would happen? I think something to note, which is very important, is why Diego and Gabriel's friendship was preserved. They have been friends, and this is stated in the series, for long before Layla appeared in their lives, and they promised that they would never fight over girls. In my opinion, why they managed to keep such a strong friendship is because nobody ended up with Layla. They ended up going in separate romantic ways, so we have Diego who has Jessica, and Gabriel who has his relationship with Mia and Tia. However, I think it would be key that if Gabriel ended up with Layla or Diego ended up with her, this would ruin their friendship. Not ruin actually, but it would definitely cause some turbulence. After all, they would be breaking the bro code, which they agreed upon ever since they were very little kids. Now, let's say that in season 1, Layla and Diego do end up together, which if Diego decided to pursue Layla more efficiently, I think it could have happened. So what would season 2 be? You would have noticed that in our 2 previous What If videos, we explored season 2 in the same way it was structured. They go on a seaside vacation, and then everything happens from there, so something changes there. However, I have always imagined Diego as someone who has a very colorful family and who is very close with his family. So, season 2 could potentially feature a completely new cast of characters. Let's see. Instead of the cast going to Australia for season 2, I'd imagine that Diego takes Layla and they travel together to his home country. By the way, his family lives abroad and he's sent to America for the sake of his education, so that Layla can meet his family. And let's see, would Diego's family like Layla? Would Layla like Diego's family? And who would the cast be? We can't take the whole season 1 cast if they're moving to a completely different location. Actually, we kind of did that with In Your Arms season 2, but you get the point. One is a friendship travel vacation, you know, very spicy, very exotic, very tropical, and the other is something related to culture and family, so it's kind of different. I would love to elaborate a bit here, but I think that Layla, she's a very open, communicative, social person, so I think it's pretty obvious what the answer for her will be. Yes, of course she will get along with Diego's parents. She has never actually had any interaction with other parents in the series, aside from the principal, who is technically Justin's father, but he is another adult figure that we see her interacting with. I don't really count Spencer, since first of all, in this alternate storyline that we're discussing right now, she wouldn't meet him. Firstly. Secondly, she doesn't have a good relationship with Spencer, so let's not count that. The principal, we see her being very calm and diplomatic around the principal. She always enters his office gracefully, she remains calm, she is polite, so I would say that she would get along with Diego's family pretty well. His family, they have a very colorful, a very bright culture. It's at least how I imagine them. They're keen on traditions. They could also be a bit more conservative. So would they like Layla? I personally think that they would. Layla is a very bright person, plus she's very cheerful, she's a very interesting person overall, and I think that is something that Diego's family, his mother, his father, and his siblings, his potentially grandparents as well, will definitely appreciate. Now, who will be the cast in this second season if Layla ended up with Diego? Let's see. So we have Diego's family tree. We have his siblings. I imagine him having around 3 or 4 siblings. 2 sisters, let's say, and 1 or 2 brothers. Something along those lines. They would like Layla, of course. They would actually look up to her. They would see her as this strong woman who makes no mistakes. So they would naturally want to be like her. Let's also make it a bit more interesting. What if I scrap what I just said and Spencer actually appears, since season 1 still ends with Layla receiving a letter from Spencer? The difference here is that in one of the cases in the original storyline, Layla literally goes over to Australia unconsciously without knowing that Spencer will be there. In the other version, Spencer would kind of have to track her down, which would be a bit creepy, but as we know, he really isn't the best person, so I imagine him doing that, and for some apparent reason he wants custody over Layla, even though we both know that he isn't really meant to be a parent. Now, if we were to take some of the cast from season 1 to accompany Layla on this journey to Diego's home country over the summer, I think it would be most logical to take, of course, Vanessa and the principal, so their romance would continue and it would be kind of the same, just instead of it being in Australia and Spencer being there, it would be Spencer being there in person, I mean. It would be them being in Diego's home country and Spencer basically, let's say, threatening them with letters or stuff like that. Another character which would be logical if we took is Gabriel, because he is Diego's best friend since his childhood. This means that he does have a very good connection with Diego's relatives, his parents, his siblings. They basically grew up together. And about what I said earlier, but what if Diego and Gabriel's friendship is ruined because Diego ends up with Layla? I think that Mia and Tia would step up here. So what would happen is there would still be the romance between Mia and Tia surrounding Gabriel, and he would kind of shift his focus away from Layla, and after all, Layla is just one girl and this has never happened before in the friendship of the 2 boys, so I imagine that Gabriel, being the good person he is, and Diego, he's also not a bad person himself, would come to an agreement and would settle things and nobody would have to fight the other. So I think that their friendship, while being a bit turbulent, should have a nice outcome. So that means that Gabriel will be accompanied by Mia and Tia. And it will be a very interesting season. It will be diversified and it will focus more on culture and family traditions. And of course the typical teenager drama that In Your Arms was focusing on. Even though we didn't really extend that to the extent I wanted it to. But yeah, so I say that it would be a very happy story. And it would be an interesting alternate plot, because it would have a completely different setting from season 1 and season 2 as we know it. So, let me know what you guys think. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for being so patient with us, and we're working our hardest to give you Mystery Lies in its best form possible. And trust me, I am the one who's editing it, me, Thainmer, and I can say that as for now, it's looking promising. It's very different than what we've done. All of the studio is amazing. Also, we have some incredible milestones coming this month, so thank you. Thank you guys for everything. We will discuss the milestones and we will also launch an event alongside them. So, thank you. Thank you for everything. Bye. I love ya.